Party member keeps flirting with my character to the point it's making me uncomfortable. I am going to be the first of many echoes here. First, be direct and don't dance about the issue. Nothing is going to change with a problem player with hinting. Second, if this does not work, talk with your DM or other members of your group. This is a group activity meant to be enjoyed as a group, so it can be solved as a group. 3. As sad as it is to say, no DND is better than bad DND. If the issue is not getting fixed, then it's best to rip the band-aid and think about leaving. However, this should be last resort. I've had a similar situation in the past. My course of action was as followed. Told the character in-game to back off, not interested. When it continued, I threatened character in-game. After session, explained out of game to player and DM that if they want to continue, my character will follow through with their threat. Problem continued, my character gave a final warning. Problem character made a joke, ended up getting killed by my character. Problem player threw a fit and left the group. Game got better overall. Would I advise that course of action? Maybe not. Did it help my personal situation? For sure. It's not out of line to bring it up to the DM, in fact it's probably one of the first things you should do. Also, if you are worried about making things awkward by addressing them directly, try doing what they are doing. Reject their advances in game. They won't have an RP reason to keep doing it if your character makes it clear to theirs that they want it to stop. And if they still don't stop, that just shows that it's not an in-game thing, and they really are just being a creep. Playing a bard doesn't give people free license to be a creep. Tell him off in character, tell him off out of character. This boy needs to know this fixation on you won't get him anywhere. I'll definitely be more forward in telling him off. Yeah, a character being a creep can work as long as the creepiness is all off-screen and even merely implied at some points. I don't need to experience the lawful evil vampire PC role-playing their nightly blood-draining awfulness, for example. This just sounds awful and I'm sorry. No, flirting is not a bad thing. Stop subtle hinting and outright tell him. He may be too dense to realize you are uncomfortable. Only involve the DM as a second step, unless you feel unsafe around the player. Yeah, I'm realizing that now. That was just my impression I'd gotten from all the D&D stories I'd heard. I'll be a lot more forward in telling him. I wouldn't say I feel unsafe, but if he doesn't back off after this, I will speak to my DM. The funny trope about bards flirting with everything is only funny when it's truly inappropriate flirting. Like, flirting with the dragon, mimic, gelatinous cube, or kraken. Because then the DM gets to figure out how does a seduced green slime behave. No player, or DM, wants to roleplay being seduced in a conventional way. Yeah, great, you sweep the barmaid off her feet and get a free bed for the night. You are, D20, satisfied in the morning. If he doesn't back off, either respond with outright hostility or disgust. How would you react if the player tried to force himself on you at the table? Treat his character the same way. There's a lot of good advice here, and he's a creepy asshat, but now is your full unbridled opportunity to say anything you want in character to him or any other guy that doesn't respect your boundaries or take a goddamn hint. Next time he tries anything, just put on a character voice and say, as if I'd want anything to do with a slob like yourself or swine like you are the reason I'm unmarried as of yet. You could suggest to the DM to implement a stoplight system for the table. If everyone has their green card forward, that means everyone is okay. Yellow means to change subjects from whatever is going on because someone is uncomfortable, and the table should discuss limits after the session. Red is stop the game immediately. A line has been crossed even if it wasn't a pre-established line during session 0, and the table should take 5-minute break and immediately discuss limits. That's his creepy dickhead behavior and has nothing to do with D&D in any way. He's playing a bard, and I know that flirting with everyone is kinda supposed to be their thing. It is not. There is literally nothing whatsoever about Bard that says this has to happen, and creeping on you in the game is just creeping on you once removed, and I'd advise trying to get it stopped. The most direct route would be to interrupt the game and tell them straight up to just stop, and it's making you uncomfortable and you do not want it to happen again. But, if you don't feel like that's what you want to do, talk to the DM, and ask the DM to handle it. If the player doesn't stop, then, well, ask the DM to remove them from the table and you won't play with them anymore. Is it unreasonable for me to be getting uncomfortable with this? No. Definitely not. Also, your feelings are your feelings. They are never unreasonable and you should not have to try to repress them just to make other people happy. He is a creep. Either address it again next time he's doing this or speak to the DM or the group about it. If he doesn't stop and no one else is helping you, leave the group. You don't have to put up with that. From what you described, I really feel like this guy is playing his character this way so he can have the excuse to flirt with you. It's really weird since you have already established that boundary with him outside of game. The horny/flirtatious bard is better staying as an internet meme than played out at the table. I would either talk to the DM or make it very clear at the table you don't appreciate the in-game flirting either. Tell the player, your character keeps flirting with my character, and it's making me as a player uncomfortable. If he respects this, then you solved the problem. If he does not respect this, then that's a red flag and you can either suffer quietly or escalate until the problem is solved, one way or another. Bad D&D is worse than no D&D. Can't you address it in-game? It's an in-game issue. Your character could be annoyed just like you are IRL. Also, if there's someone older than you in the group, depending on the bard's age, he really shouldn't be making comments like that anyway. For example, if I were 20 playing D&D with my sibling and their friends, I would absolutely not tolerate any kind of sex jokes. If the bard is older, this is way over the line. This isn't an in-game issue. Most in-game issues aren't in-game issues. This is someone using the level of separation of playing an RPG to harass another person, and claim they aren't harassing them because it's happening between two imaginary characters. This is a person being a passive-aggressive asshole. Not the target or aggressor in a situation like this, but a DM for two bards. I told the bards I do not do sex scenes with them and to behave or a mountain would drop on their heads. 8 sessions in and there's been some light flirting with NPCs, but neither bard has been trying to fuck the dragon, so to speak. Moral of the story, talk to people. Your DM would be a good first step. The person the next. Besides, telling another player their chest would soften his fall isn't exactly good level of flirting even. Would not recommend trying that one in real life. Might end up with a handprint on the face. The most important thing to remember is that he is the problem. He's been told already, and has chosen not to listen. You can try to do it again, but with people who overstep boundaries tend not to be great listeners or very good people. I would recommend having a friend around as a precaution when you do reaffirm that there will never be a relationship, and his advances are unwanted and must stop. I would also let the DM, and maybe others in the group, know you're doing this, and hopefully they have your back should you need to address this with the group. This is a game we're all playing and it's supposed to be fun. When you behave inappropriately, it's very not fun for me and makes for awkward situations for the group. I've asked you before to stop and you need to listen. TLDR, tell Mr. Neckbeard to shove his fedora up his ass. First off, you need to be upfront and tell him to stop because it makes you uncomfortable, and let him understand that it's what my CHRCTWULD do is not a valid reason to keep doing it. Second, when or how everyone decided bards have to fuck everything in game. I've been playing since like 2000 and have played with many bards. Not one has ever felt the need in game to fuck everything. Seriously, tell him, that it makes you uncomfortable and he needs to stop. If he doesn't, then talk to your DM, who should put a stop to it and make it known that stuff that makes players uncomfortable needs to end. This is one of the first rules of my table. The game is for everyone to enjoy. It's people like your friend who have utterly ruined the reputation of any and all form of bard in every setting I see. Flirting with everyone is not supposed to be the thing of bards, and quite frankly I don't know how people got that ungodly idea. They're supposed to be far more than the sex-crazed nymphos that 99% of bard players have made them out to be. Edit. To add, I'm interested in the bard class. I'm curious and would love to try it. But the reputation that other folks have given the class is what keeps me away. I would absolutely, 100% in character tell the other, if they touch you again, you're going to permanently disable one of their legs. And don't hold back if they keep doing it. Roll to hit. Cast a spell. If the player throws a fit about it, make it real. Ask them if a victim shouldn't fight back against unwanted sexual advances. Tell them, if someone like you touched me like that without consent, I'd do the exact same thing. If the other player aren't on your side, that's not a safe space table for you to be at. Stop hinting. Tell him directly that it's making you uncomfortable and you'd like him to stop, because it's affecting your enjoyment of a game that you otherwise really like playing with him. If speaking with him directly doesn't work, you should then speak to your DM. Be direct about your problem, just like above. Flirting with everyone all the time is only one of the very stereotypical ways to play a bard, and is not in any way required or even suggested by the rules. If a Session 0 didn't establish what type of play the PCs were comfortable with, assuming this, then you could have your in-game character put a knife up to his PC's throat and say everything you wish you could IRL. If he thinks this is okay and isn't getting it's not, make it happen. You should not be made to feel uncomfortable, or worse, like this. If it's making you uncomfortable, break character and tell him to stop. Nothing is wrong with setting boundaries, just be direct. My advice exactly, and do it at the table or during the session so that the whole group is there for it. Make sure that whole table fully understands how uncomfortable you are. That's the only way to really deal with stuff like this. Make sure it's very obvious and take no shit.
Hey adventurers and fellow Redditors, are you tired of hearing the same old battle music during your D&D sessions, or just looking for the perfect soundtrack for your next epic quest? Well, let me introduce you to Amazon Music Unlimited. With Amazon Music Unlimited, you get access to over 100 million songs, ad-free. That means whether you need an intense combat playlist, relaxing tunes for a tavern scene, or just something to vibe to while scrolling Reddit, we've got you covered. And it's not just about music, there are thousands of podcasts too. So if you need a break between campaigns, you can catch up on your favorite shows. Plus, there's the best part. If you sign up today, you can try it free for 30 days. No commitment, no hassle, just endless music and podcasts tailored to your taste. So whether you're crafting your next D&D campaign, painting minis, or just chilling with your party, make your soundtrack legendary with Amazon Music Unlimited. Hit the link below and start your free trial now, because every adventure needs a killer soundtrack.
Knew where this was going from the title. Do not tolerate any amount of this kind of thing. It only gets worse and establishes a precedent of what a crush-addled mind interprets as consent to this sort of banter and an outlet for his fantasy, which should not be encouraged or tacitly approved through inaction. Don't be afraid of being mean. The kindest thing you can do is establish the boundaries you require as explicitly as possible, and if he can't live by them, one of the two of you is going to have to stop associating with the other. Immediately tell your DM. If they don't earnestly help stop this behavior, I'd leave the game. If I were your DM, and you told me, I'd talk to the player as if you never approached me, but that I just picked up on your vibes, and I'd be like, hey, they're new, you're overwhelming them. I think the job of experienced players is to take cues from new players and give them role-playing space to drive things. Plus, the flirty bard is not at all intrinsic to being a bard, it's a played-out meme. I think you are better off having a quiet word with him than with the DM. Literally tell him what you've said here, that the fact he, the player, has made it clear that he's into you, and because you don't feel the same way, you feel that the in-character flirting, though normally fine in your eyes, in this instance isn't. You could even approach it in a do me a favor kind of way, like, because I don't want in-character reciprocity to be read as oak interest, I'd just feel much more comfortable if you wouldn't do that. That's if the guy is not that bad / just, wrongly, thinks he's being funny and you don't really want to fall out with him / the group. You say he's one of your friends after all. But no, you are not being unreasonable, getting uncomfortable. Just wanna say horny bard is not standard, it's cliché. But even then horny people turn down folks all the time. A bard has social skills, including telling someone making undesired advances fuck off. In-game you would be completely justified in telling the other PC to stop hitting on you even if you are a horny bard, cliché. Establish boundaries, communicate. Hey player, I don't like it when you do this thing. When you do this thing, it makes me feel uncomfortable, and it's not fun for me as a player. I don't blame you or anything, it's nothing personal, but I would just like it to stop. So please respect my wishes. I sounds like he's using his bard as a blatant self-insert rather than playing a character who is separate from himself. This is still not inherently a bad thing until you bring real-world matters into the campaign, which he definitely is. Summary: dude is creepy as fuck and you need to tell him outright that what he's doing is most definitely not okay. I almost had this happen once. I'm in a campaign with some online friends and my character is an ace bard. Side note, I'm asexual and hate anything to do with sex, and we had a new member, one of the DM's friends, who apparently wanted to, in-game, screw everyone's character. Luckily, the DM and I are close and he nipped that in the bud. She told him beforehand and he went hell no, leave them, me, alone, they're not going to be okay with that. She's not in the group anymore, not sure why, she just left one day, and I honestly can't say I miss her. I don't care if other people screw NPCs or each other in-game, just don't fucking involve me in it. TLDR, fuck that shit. D&D is supposed to be fun for everyone, not just a few people in the group. Tell him it's not okay, and if you have to, get the DM involved. Tell him straightforward that you're not into it. The only way he will understand is if you tell him. His mentality seems, from the limited information presented, that if he can't be with you IRL he can always try in-game. Shut it down politely, but clearly. Leave no room for misunderstanding. And not all bards flirt with everyone / thing, that's a tired stereotype for dimwits and dullards. I have a bard character who's a licensed psychiatrist who moonlights as a serial killer. He's asexual and a bit sociopathic. You're not out of line and this person is abusing his character and roleplay as a means to harass you. Talk to your DM about it. If they're reasonable they'll help you. If the person bothering you doesn't change, then it's best to play in a group without them. We actually talk about flirting / relationships in our session 0. We have one player who does not want his characters flirted with, he's okay with light flirting as a DM, everyone agreed to the Dawson's Creek and the camera pans to the fireplace rule for sex. I'm sorry you're experiencing this. Generally, if I'm playing a flirty character, I would only flirt with players who are role-playing back favorably or who have role-played that they don't like it but said out of character they like the antagonistic relationship. We often clarify how we feel as players versus how we feel out of character. Echo of a few posts with a horrible suggestion at the end. For sure call him out, tell him it's harassment and you'll not stand for it. If he can't take it like an adult and change, he needs to leave. If he insists it's just in-game roleplay and not personal, just go all in, let your character seduce his, get him naked on a bed in a questionable inn, and put a knife in his gut. What? You said it was in character and insisted it's not personal. You kept harassing someone who's not into it. What did you expect? Out of character. Hey dude, it's not fun for me to do that. It makes me uncomfortable IRL/OAK. Don't do that anymore. If you continue to do it, I can't play with you anymore. If he does it again, immediately talk over him and say I told you not to do that. If he immediately backs down, no worries. If he argues, just immediately leave. Edit, I play bards on the reg. I never flirt with NPCs or other PCs. It's not core to the class. They're just red wizards. If talking to the player and the DM doesn't fix it, stab his character in the dick and say it's what my character would do, then leave the table. Crass though this is, it gets to an important second part of this issue. Lots of people have provided great advice about being clear about your boundaries, great advice for life generally tbh. Not so many people have addressed the part where you said this is going on through in-game interaction. Even if you stop any out-of-game creepiness, it seems likely they will come back with the it's what my character would do argument. Accurate character roleplay is much less important than everyone at the table having fun. That includes you being able to have fun. You mentioned the DM is new, and it can take new DMs a while to come to terms with this. Maybe, in addition to asking them to ensure the table is a safe place to be, direct them to do some more reading about dealing with what my character would do bullshit, literally Google searching that phrase. It'll help them with a lot of other issues that might come up later too. So even if this player tries to come up with some argument about how his character blah blah, none of that stuff would matter if it's making the game not fun and unsafe for you, and he will need to stop it anyway. D&D has been getting a lot more mainstream recently, but it's still ultimately a nerd hobby, and most of the people who play it are too socially awkward to know how to catch hints. They're also usually non-confrontational enough to back down if you speak honestly and bluntly about the fact that you're uncomfortable. Please stop using our characters as a way to flirt with me. I have told you I'm not interested, said privately before the next session. Repeated during the session at the first offense. Talked to the DM beforehand too, so he's not blindsided and thinks he needs to do anything other than back up your desire to play in peace should you have to take the second action. That's exactly what the DM should be there for. Talk to your DM, explain calmly that you'd appreciate it if the bars would lay off it because it's negatively impacting your fun, and let the DM talk to the guy. If your DM is unwilling to help you out, it may be a good idea to try and find another group, which sounds harsh at first, but if you've seen some of what people talk about having happened in games with friends, may not be an overreaction. Next time roll up a male character to mess with him. Well, the problem player might be by rendering it useless, and a new character's a bit drastic. Also, if op is transformed, that could be dysphoria-inducing. Speaking for myself as someone freshly cracked, I've realized this is a big part of why I've always felt uncomfortable with getting into character. Communication is super important for a D&D group emo. If another player's behavior is subtracting from your experience, I definitely think you should say something. If it's too uncomfortable for you to be direct with this person, talking to the DM and being very direct about the issue is a good second choice. I'm sorry you got stuck in this situation. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that don't realize they need to control themselves in a RP scenario. I hope you're able to find a positive outcome in the end of this. Rule 1 of the table, is it making a player uncomfortable? Full stop. Discuss and resolve. Out of character. In character you tell him off and it's not a joke or funny, and if he keeps it up you'll kick him in his balls. Then intentions have been stated both in and out of game. Still going. It's time for a round table discussion. Arbitrate with your GM. They don't know something's a problem unless you tell them. If he knows this is an issue and makes you uncomfortable, they can easily shut down narrative. The power dynamic is in their hands. You've got a lot of good advice how to address this. I wonder if your DM would be open to using the X card rule so that in the future if there's ever any uncomfortable things or boundaries being crossed, it can be addressed in the moment without interrupting the game too much. If you're unfamiliar, this rule is just that there is a card with an X on it. If someone is uncomfortable, they grab the card and hold it up. There's no need for a discussion about why it bothers the player. The DM will ask the person if they need a minute to collect themselves, and then the player can say what they object to. Again, there is no discussion, aka the offending player or DM cannot argue as to why it should be allowed. Then the party decides together what happens instead, with the player whose boundaries were crossed leading the convo, if they want, and getting final say. If you're playing online, you can cross your arms in an X if on video, or just type X in the chat.
Hey there, fantasy fans. If you're looking for an epic listen, you have to check out Rosamund Pike's narration of the Wheel of Time audiobook. Rosamund Pike brings so much life to Robert Jordan's world. Her performance adds an extra layer of depth to the characters, making the story even more immersive. Whether it's her portrayal of the fearless Aes Sedai or the intense magical battles, she nails it. It's like experiencing the Wheel of Time in a whole new way. And here's the best part. You can get it for free with Audible's 30-day trial of Audible Plus. You'll get access to this incredible audiobook and more, completely free for a month. So if you're ready to dive into this massive fantasy world, this is the perfect way to start. Don't miss out. Check the link below and start your journey today. 100% free for qualifying people. Completely free. Click the link.